All right, now comes the fun part. So we're going to have a quick look at speaking part 3. Before we do so, I'd like to see how much you guys know about this part of the exam, again, just so we can fill in the gap. So when you do this part, how long does it last?
2 minutes.
This whole part of the exam is 4 minutes, well done. But the discussion on this question is,
1 minute.
what was that, Colin?
1 minute.
A little bit longer. It's a 2-minute conversation. Okay.
Oh no, the negotiation was 60 seconds.
The negotiation is 1 minute. Good. So this section is a bit confusing. It's actually divided into 2 parts. Okay. First, you and your partner are going to talk about this topic. Well, essentially, just as always, you're going to answer the question in the middle. So they're not trying to confuse you with any hidden information. The question is nice and simple. How can people help protect the environment? And then they actually give you the answer. So they're giving you things that you can talk about with your partner. Okay. After you've answered this question and you've talked to your partner for 2 minutes, the examiner is going to ask you guys one more question, which is the second part of speaking part 3, and it's a chance for you to reach a decision. So you're essentially negotiating with your partner, and the examiner is basically going to ask you to choose one of these 5 options. They might say which one helps the most, which one helps the least, and it's always some kind of, which one shall we choose? And you have to do that with your partner. So the total of the whole of speaking part 3 is 4 minutes, but it's a 2-minute conversation followed by a 1-minute negotiation. Okay? Do you guys think it's possible to talk about 5 different subtopics in 2 minutes?
No.
I mean, it would be a very, very speedy conversation and very superficial, I guess you could say. So you really want to aim for maybe 2 or 3 of these subtopics. The examiners do not expect you to talk about all 5 of them. It's impossible to talk about all 5 of them. The focus is on one thing really in this part of the exam. If this activity is called the collaborative task, what are they testing you on?
If you can cooperate with your partner.
Exactly. How well you can interact, cooperate, collaborate with your partner. How can we show the examiners we know how to interact with another human being in English?
Ask questions.
Good. What else? Imagine, for example, your partner says, if the question is, how can people help protect the environment? And your partner says, well, in my opinion, recycling is a great way because the more we recycle, the less we're throwing into landfills and the less we are polluting seas and rivers. What could you say after?
I completely agree with you.
I completely agree. You took the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely. So, I've added into your PDF this week some phrases as well that you can use in speaking part 3. And all of these phrases really are to help you not just ask questions to help your partner or to invite them into the conversation, but phrases that you can use to say that you agree with them or maybe you don't really agree with them. So, Michaela, can you do the honors and read these phrases for us?
Shall I start? Would you mind if I started? Sure, by all means, absolutely. Go ahead, go for it. Well, to begin with, you make a fantastic point. I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. You took the words right off my mouth. I'm inclined to believe that. Shall we move on the next one? Let's move on the next one. I do see your point, but I'm not sure. I get what you are saying, but not necessary. I agree up to a point, but I beg to differ. What's your take on this? Do you agree? What do you think?
Very good. So, let me show you the handbook quickly. I think I sent you guys a copy of the B2 First handbook. But again, we can see some of the most important things that the examiners are looking for here. In this handbook for teachers, the the Cambridge institution really is telling us that what we need to do is to see if you guys can hold a conversation. So now we're seeing a huge change in what they're looking at in speaking part 1 and part 2, and what the focus is in speaking part 3 and 4. So they want to see if you're able to hold a conversation. So it's not just about giving your ideas, but you need to listen to what your partner is saying and say, you know what? That's an interesting point. I would also like to add, okay? They want to see that you can turn take appropriately. What does this mean?
That we can exchange our opinions, and we not only talk, but we also listen and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Be active in this conversation.
Yeah, it needs to be a balanced conversation, not one person who's doing all the speaking and one person who's not saying anything at all. And then use the language of negotiation and collaboration, which we're going to have a look at more in the second part of speaking part 3. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to have a look, actually, why don't we have a look first at a model answer? I think we'll just go through this nice and quickly, because I have no doubt you guys are going to do a really good job of speaking part 3, just like you did in speaking part 2, which is all about coming up with some good ideas. So you can see more or less how long your idea should be and how you can bring other people into the conversation, all right? Collin, you're going to be person A, and Gosia, you're going to be person B, and Ursula, I'd like you to read the sentence, the question in the middle, and the 5 points around, please.
Why would these ideas attract more tourists to the town? Building a large nightclub, putting up security cameras, having more shops, building holiday flats, providing parks.
Okay.
Shall I start?
Sure, go ahead.
Building holiday flats without a doubt influence more tourists to visit the town. As when a town or city has facilities especially for tourists, it makes it far easier to plan a weekend away. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would agree to a certain extent. There's no denying that a wider variety of accommodation makes it easier to plan a holiday. That way, a wider range of people can find the place accessible, as there would be more expensive but also cheaper options.
I hadn't thought of that. You make an excellent point.
However, I think that having more shops would also attract lots of travelers of all ages. Everyone loves to go for a shop, and they are more inclined to go on shopping spree on holiday. Do you agree?
Absolutely. You're completely right. Come to think of it, I always look up the shops before before booking a weekend trip. Why don't we move on to talking about security cameras? What's your take on putting them up?
Honestly, I think they may attract the most paranoid of travelers, or perhaps parents of extremely little kiddies. However, aside from that, I'm not really sure they are an effective tourist magnet. The same goes for building a large nightclub.
You make a great point. I'd only consider a hypersecurity city if I were going with vulnerable people. Otherwise, it's not at the top of my list by any means. I think it's because as an European, I just assume that most places are pretty safe anyway.
Same here, without a doubt. I can't imagine being in a life or death situation on holiday, sipping on a martini.
All right, can you guys give me an example of the phrases which show that we are interacting with another person?
Sure, go ahead.
What else?
I hadn't thought of that. You make an excellent point.
Good. And before that, what shows that we were really listening to our partner?
Well, I had agreed to a certain extent.
Very good. What else?
However, I think that
Yeah, so this person is continuing what they said
Yeah.
from before.
Do you agree?
Mhm.
Absolutely, you are completely right.
Good.
What's your take on putting them up?
Very good.
I think they may attract the most paranoid of travelers.
Yeah, this person is expressing their.
It's a response to what they said.
It is a response, you're right.
You make a great point.
Mhm.
Same here.
Very good. So, as you can see, no one is dominating the conversation. Everyone, when they decide to talk about one of these topics, each person is only really making one point and explaining it in a little bit more detail or giving it an example. So, we're really looking at the same strategies as we had a look at from the very beginning. You want to make a point and explain it with a little bit more detail, and that's it. And then we're really passing the microphone to the other person. Okay. So I think what we'll do is we'll jump straight into the first part of speaking part 3. We'll do something similar to what we did in our last class, so we can brainstorm some ideas together as a class, and then we're just going to practice as much as possible. Okay, so why don't we start with this one here? The first thing I want to remind you guys of is that we always have to answer the question. It's very easy to just start talking about the topic, get carried away, but we're answering this question with some of these subtopics to help us. Okay, so how can people help protect the environment? What can we say about recycling?
Well, it's a good start of looking after the environment and maybe using less plastics, for example, plastic bags.
Anything else you guys could say about recycling?
We can give our clothes, which we are not wear anymore, for charity or for some places where people who cannot afford a new clothes can just take them for free.
Very good.
In a way,
How
you
about
give old products a second life, and you use this the same material again.
Putting a deposit of things like plastic bottles motivates people to recycle more.
really good points already? How about public transport?
If
In
more
big
people-
Gosia?
in big cities where the public transport is very often a good solution, we should use it instead of using a car.
Or having cheaper public transport, people would consider going to work by car, by bus, train, whatever.
Very good. We got some good points because imagine, for example, your partner in the exam says, well, in my honest opinion, if people hopped on the bus more or took the underground instead of conveniently driving their car into the city, then it would help us to reduce carbon emissions. And you could say, you know what, I do see what you're saying. However, we need to be realistic because the price of transport sometimes can be pretty high. So if the government lowered the prices or subsidized public transport, then I think people would be more motivated to take it. So it can turn into a conversation. And if you disagree with your partner, that's absolutely fine. How about when it comes to buying organic products? Is that a way that people can help protect the environment?
Well, supporting local farmers or local shops would be definitely beneficial. But of course, on the other hand, not everyone can afford that.
Normally, local source product, they have they need less carbon emission comparing with the normal products, or I don't know how really to, yeah. So in a way, they are more environmentally friendly because of the short distance. Yeah.
This is really good because imagine your partner in the exam is really passionate about organic products and they're like, yeah, organic is the way to go because without organic problems, we're killing the planet. And you might say, you know what? I agree with you to a certain extent, but if we're really talking about the health of the environment or protecting the environment, what really matters is locally produced food or locally sourced items instead of ones that have to travel across the world. So they don't have to be organic, but as long as they don't travel far, that's what's important. Okay. How about replacing old electronics and appliances? It's a good one.
If people would use their electronic devices until the end, I don't know, I had something. Until they die, then they wouldn't use as much as plastic as other people.
Got a nice conditional in there. Well done.
What did you say?
You got a nice conditional structure. You're just showing off your grammar, which is good.
We can replace old electronics with a new one which are less energy consuming because they are more innovative and modern.
Very good.
If they sell devices instead of, so they can have a second life instead of just throwing it away or putting it in the attic for an X amount of time until they throw it away.
How about the last one here? Using less water at home. How is that helpful?
If you have a garden, you can, for example, put a barrel in your garden and catch rain to the barrel and then use this water to water your plants in the garden.
I like it.
I think especially hot water, you use a lot of fuel, or I don't know, for electricity,
Electricity, energy.
energy. So maybe that's why they recommend to take a cold shower also for this effect.
Good. I have a feeling we might have a few disagreements when we have the discussion today, but that's all part of the activity, which is good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you guys as a class, but we're going to do it in pairs. We're going to have a go at doing speaking part 3. I want to remind you that you shouldn't stop speaking. The examiner is going to let you know when the 2 minutes are up. And the focus should be really on communicating good, intelligent points about these topics, because the examiners want to see, does Collin know his vocabulary on recycling? Can Michaela talk about public transport and how it's related to the environment? But they also want to see that you guys are really listening to each other. If you just say random things, or you say, I agree, and then you talk about something else, you're not going to get those interactive communication points because you're not really engaging with your partner. So make sure you listen to what they say, and your response makes logical sense when you're saying what you say, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the script as the examiner would, so you know how things are going to go. I'm going to choose 2 of you to do this. We're going to put on a 2-minute timer, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so the examiner would say, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. Actually, why don't I leave the vocabulary up so you guys have access to that as well. I'll share my whole desktop, I think. Okay. So I'm going to ask Ursula and Michaela to go first, okay? The examiner would say, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. Some people think that protecting the environment is an important issue, and others disagree. Here are some things that they think about and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. And then the examiner would give you this piece of paper. They'd give you 15 seconds to look at the task, which is your preparation time. And then the examiner would say, now, talk to each other about how people can help protect the environment.
Okay, so shall I start, or would you mind if I started?
Go ahead. I don't mind.
I would like to start speaking about buying organic products, because this topic is quite close to my heart. As I grew up on a farm, I'm used to buying organic free-range eggs and meat from the farm, which it's not
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michaela, but can I spring here in?
yeah.
Because I think we should cut to the chase. What about, why do you think buying organic products would be eco-friendly?
Because I think that we should support local farmers and not to buy, when it comes to veg, fruit, or meat, from a third party. Like we import most of the stuff from south of Europe or even from Africa. So I think overall it's even cheaper and it's better for our environment. Just support local farmers. What is your opinion about it?
I'm on the same page. And in my opinion, using public transport would be the best to reduce carbon emission, because here we have a great public transport, and it's also more reliable than traveling by car. What's your point on that, Michaela?
I can
Right.
agree more.
Thank you. Guys, your 2 minutes is up. It flew by really quickly. So, what did you guys think about your answer? What did you do well, and what could be improved?
We should be probably faster.
Yeah, it's always a tricky one to say we should speak faster because in another language, people speak at the speed they do, until they get more and more comfortable. You could probably have talked about one more point, maybe.
Maybe they should be more specific, and because I think that Michaela at the beginning was too detailed, and she tried to speak about her childhood and that she grew up at the farm. So maybe it was just too much. Maybe it should be a little bit shorter.
This is a tricky one because it's always good to talk about your personal life because it sounds very natural, Like if you're talking about the fact that organic products are good because they don't travel so far. In the end, Michaela, you gave some very good vocabulary. You talked about free-range eggs. You said fruit, veg, and meat is often imported from, I think you said the south of Europe or even from Africa. So those were really good points that you were putting across. But I think it's true that at the very beginning, we deviated just a little bit away from the question. And because our time is unfortunately so limited, it meant there wasn't much time for an interaction. So your supporting points were really good, but it would have been good to say, well, we can buy organic products because the unfortunate reality is we import so many things from far away. And by doing that, we are releasing carbon emissions into the atmosphere. For the sake of time, there's not really too much time to get into stories in this part of the test, but your vocabulary was excellent. And both of you did a really, really good job of making sure that the conversation was balanced, asking questions, agreeing and disagreeing with each other. And Ursula, you very politely interrupted in the conversation, which is a strategy that you guys can use if the other person in the exam is not letting you speak. Because by saying, I'm sorry, do you mind if I jump in? You're also interacting with your partner, but making sure you get a chance to speak as well. So that was very, very well done. We're going to try again, but I'm going to ask Gosia and Collin to have a go at this one. Now, you guys have it easier because you didn't have to go first, but the examiner would say to you, now talk to each other about how people can help protect the environment.
Would you mind if I start?
No, please go ahead.
I think that people could help the environment, that if they want to use less water, they could how do you say that? Consider flushing the toilet less. And if they do that at the end of the day, there would be less water spilled, and the end result will be the same, in my opinion.
I also agree that we should save water at home as much as we can. And in my opinion, it's also a good idea while you're brushing your teeth, just to use a little cup with the water, not use the water pouring all the time from the tap. And I also think that it's also a good idea to use a dishwasher instead of washing your dishes by doing hand wash. What do you think, Collin, about that?
I think you make a fantastic point. Although I don't think that using a dishwasher will save a lot of water, I think doing the dishes by hand will save more, but opinions can differ.
Okay, so we have different opinions here, but Do you think that we can now jump to another one, like using public transport, for example?
Yeah, sure.
And here, what I can say here from my own experience is that because I am living in a big city, I always try to use public transport, which is in my city, actually, it's really convenience. And I think that,
thank you.
oh my
Guys,
God.
your time is up, I'm afraid. I'm going to ask the same question to everyone in class, which is, what do you think these guys did well?
They interact perfectly with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We try to have at least what is that? Not there weren't much quiet spots.
Yeah.
I don't
And
my
when
English
there,
not very good.
yeah, and when there was a pause, you understood that, Collin, and you kept going as well to keep the conversation going, which was good. You guys also did a good job of using very good B2 vocabulary, talking about the water coming out of the tap, talking about flushing the toilet. These are not words that many B2 students feel comfortable using. So you all have a good range of vocabulary, or you've demonstrated a fantastic range when talking about all these different topics that we've talked about since the beginning of the course. So that's been really good. How about some constructive criticism or things that we could improve for the next time?
I think they spend way too much time on about saving water. So in a way, the whole discussion revolves around saving water, and then they were running out of time.
Yeah, there definitely was a dominant conversation topic. I think in both of the ones that we've done today, we've seen you guys spend most of your time on one, which is again why we're practicing this today, because this always happens. It's hard to know what 2 minutes feels like, and 2 minutes is not a long time to have a conversation. So we have to get used to having like express conversations, talking about two different points in about 2 minutes. Okay. What I'm very happy about is that you guys have good vocabulary, you're interacting with each other. We just need to work a little bit on time management, but your ideas are there. And that's the thing that students struggle with the most. So I'm really not worried about you guys at all.
I have a question.
Sure.
When does the time the first person says something, or when the examiner says, "No, you can start"?
When the examiner says, now you can start.
Okay.
Hopefully you'd start straight away. They can't wait for you guys to start because sometimes students take a couple of seconds to start, and the examiners have a very strict time period that the exam has to start and finish. They have 14 minutes only, so everything is very controlled. Okay?
And I also have a question. How should we behave if I start and my partner will start at the same time?
What would you do in a normal conversation if you and somebody else talk at the same time?
I try to be polite and say, okay, go ahead.
You can do the exact same thing. What the examiners want to see is that you know how to have a polite interaction with somebody else. So sometimes things happen, people speak over each other. Sometimes two people speak at the same time. You might say, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, or why don't you go ahead? And that's absolutely fine. Okay? I think what we'll do is, instead of separating the first and the second part, because the question is on the same topic as the thing we've just been talking about, I think we'll jump straight into the negotiation just so we can practice it from the very beginning in case we run out of time near the end. So, when it comes to the second part of speaking part 3, the examiner is always going to ask you a question in which you have to make a decision. So in this case, the examiner would say to you, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is not important to protect the environment. Okay? They want to test you on similar things, on your ability to express your ideas, your ability to interact with someone else, but they also want to see if you're able to negotiate. So how you can handle reaching a decision with another person. Okay? I want to make it clear that if you guys don't reach a decision, it's not going to affect your marks. You can't force somebody in the exam to agree with you. You can't force somebody in real life to agree with you. So you can do the best you can do to try and reach a decision together. But if you guys have different opinions, that's absolutely fine. So you might say something like, all right, so let's come to a decision. A strategy that works really well and is a good way to fill the time because you have 60 full seconds to reach a decision. And imagine Michaela says, oh, I think using less water is not important because, you can't really save that much water that you're using on a daily basis. Plus, it all goes to the rivers anyway. And then imagine Gosia says, yeah, I completely agree with you. There's no negotiation. You've just said your opinion and you still have like 50 seconds to talk. So a great way to fill the time and to show the examiner, look, I know how to negotiate with my partner is to choose 2 points or choose 1 point that you definitely wouldn't choose. So if the examiner says, which one do you think is not important? You might say, well, I definitely wouldn't say using public transport because the amount of energy or the amount of carbon emissions that using cars releases into the atmosphere is just catastrophic. So you've made it clear, look, I don't think it's this one for this reason. You're starting to eliminate the points. Another great strategy, these actually work all very well together, is to offer 2 suggestions. Because what we're doing now is just saying, well, I definitely don't think it's this one, but it might be this one or this one. What do you think? And then you're making the negotiation really easy. So you might say, for example, oh, I'm torn between buying organic products and replacing old electronics. Which one is not important? And then you might say, what do you think, Ursula? And Ursula might say, well, if I had to choose between these 2, I would definitely go for this one because of this reason. And Gosia might say, great, I completely agree with you. It seems like we've reached a decision. So this is a strategy that we're going to practice today. We're going to eliminate one. We're going to offer 2 suggestions, and then we're going to try and reach an agreement. Okay? I'm going to, again, show you guys an example of what an answer of this one would look like, just so we can see it in the flesh and it would be a little bit easier. So Michaela, I'm going to ask you to be student A and Ursula, you can be B. Okay?
Well, I think it's definitely not putting up security cameras.
Yes, we both clearly agree that it isn't the most beneficial option by far.
I mean, there's no denying that they are important, but not for attracting tourists.
Absolutely. However, I'm torn between having more shops and building holiday flats.
We should probably come to a decision quickly. I think I would go for having more shops, as now with lots of websites that offer rentals in people's homes, and with camping becoming more popular. I would say that shopping will be probably more beneficial in the long term.
For sure, just as you mentioned before, it has undeniable benefits for lots of people.
So we both agree that having shops would be the best.
Right. So again, both people have spoken mostly equally. Maybe student A spoke a little bit more, but that's absolutely fine. And these 2 students came to an agreement together. Okay. So this is generally the hardest part because 1 minute does fly by really quickly. So again, we're going to do the same as what we did before. I'm going to ask Michaela and Ursula to go first. The examiner would say, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is not important to protect the environment.
Do you mind when I start?
Go ahead.
Actually, I'm wavering between using less water at home and replacing old electronics applications, because comparing with the other topics, they take a backseat. What's your opinion on that?
More or less, I think the same. I was torn between these two. But I think how it's hard to say how much less water do we have to use, because people having swimming pools at home, so maybe replacing the electronics an appliance would be less. It would be more important. So let's go for using less water.
Right. Thank you. Your time is up. It was up a little bit before, I'm afraid, so we didn't quite manage to reach a decision in the 60 seconds, but you did a good job, Ursula, of giving Michaela 2 options to choose from, and you guys were getting closer to reaching a decision. Okay? Not bad for a first attempt. I'm going to ask Collin and Gosia to do the exact same thing now. Maybe you can pick different points to choose between. Okay, so you've talked about how people can help protect the environment. The examiner would say, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is not important to protect the environment.
Well, I think it's definitely not recycling.
Recycling, why not?
Because let's say all the garbage is from the street and recycled, that would still not really help a lot of things in short term.
Okay, but you disagree that we shouldn't give the second life to the furnitures or clothes which we no longer use? Because I think that this is the main point here when we speak about recycling products.
Yeah, I agree with that. That may be a great way of saving some materials.
In my opinion,
Right. Thank you.
oh,
Guys,
again.
60 seconds just flew by like that. You guys started to make some good points, but this raises an important point, which is that in this part of the exam, there's not time to get into another discussion about how recycling can protect the environment. You have time. Something we need to think about is you have 2 minutes in your collaboration to talk in detail about these points. You have just 60 seconds to reach a negotiation. And then in speaking part 4, which is what we're going to talk about on next week on Tuesday, the conversation topic is still going to be on the same topic as speaking part 3. So the examiners are going to give you a lot of time to express your ideas in a lot of detail, but especially in speaking part 4. We need to really summarize our ideas here. In theory, you already talked to your partner about recycling above, so we're just reaching a decision here. We don't have to introduce new ideas. Okay?
Okay.
So when you guys did your 2-minute discussion before, I think you both talked about the fact that I don't remember what you said. I remember the points that
We talk about water and public transport.
Public transport as reasons that people can protect the environment. So if you talked about these 2 being reasons people can protect the environment, then maybe it's a good idea to say, well, compared to the ones that we talked about in our discussion before, I just don't think that recycling has as many positive effects as using less water and public transport does. Okay? So you can use the points you talked about before, like when you're writing an essay and you reach your conclusion, you're not going to start writing a whole paragraph with new ideas, but you just want to summarize the points that you made before. Okay?
But what if your partner starts the discussion again? because there's two people in the exam.
You're never going to be able to fully control how your partner interacts in the exam, and that's not going to affect your marks in the exam either. If you're trying to negotiate, if you're trying to interact with your partner, then it's not going to be a problem. You need to do your best to handle that situation. So you might do what Ursula did at the beginning of class, which is, why don't we focus on reaching a decision, or we're running out of time. Why don't you let me know which one you think is not the most effective? So you can do what you would do in a normal conversation to try and control the situation as well. Okay? We have some more time, so I think we're going to jump onto another topic now, just so the whole class is not about saving the planet, but we can practice our vocabulary on different topics as well. Shall we do a brainstorm, or should I just throw you guys into the deep end? I think I'm going to throw you guys into the deep end, and then if we need to take a step back to plan the next one, we can do that. Okay, so let me get my script open for this test. Here we go. All right, I'm actually cheating because you guys shouldn't be able to see the PDF yet. Should I do it? Yeah, anyway. Okay, so the examiner would say, now, Ursula and Michaela, I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. A lot of people are trying to stay fit and healthy these days. Here are some things that they think about and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. Now, talk to each other about what people can do to stay fit and healthy.
Michaela, do you mind when I start?
Go ahead.
I think it's most important that people take up a kind of sport, something they are keen on, and something who keeps them or on their toes. What's your take on that?
I do see your point, but I'm not too sure if taking up a sport without a balanced diet is beneficial. It's great, but I think that the most important from the topics here is the balanced diet. What do you think about it?
You make an excellent point. I totally agree with you. What about going to the gym? Because I think not everybody is a gym enthusiast. What do you think about going to gym?
I think that the gym is quite overrated. I think that exercising at home and or taking up a sport you like is completely fine. You don't have to stress yourself around another people. It's when it comes to buying expensive equipment, it's the same. If you like something, you don't need to buy anything expensive. Just start as you can. Yeah.
Right.
What
Thank
do you
you. Guys, that was not bad at all. Any feedback you'd give yourselves?
At the end, I wanted to jump in because I also wanted to add something, but I didn't really know when I should interrupt her, because in my opinion, Michaela talked too long about exercising at home.
This is a tricky one because obviously if someone's speaking for about a minute, you might think, okay, now someone's speaking too much and it's my turn to jump in. But because we're also having an interaction where there is a lot of back and forth, we can't constantly interrupt someone because it's not an example of a polite conversation. So if you feel like it is getting too long and you haven't had a chance to express yourself, then you can use a polite phrase and say, I'm really sorry, but do you mind if I jump in? Or maybe they say something and you might say, actually, I'd like to say something about the point that you just made, but only if really they've been speaking too much. Okay? I thought it was interesting what you said, Ursula. It sounded a bit passive aggressive when you said, you make an excellent point, I agree with you. And then you moved on to to another topic, which is fine. You use the phrases, which obviously I encourage you guys to do. But what's also really important is the examiner wants to see that you really are listening to your partner. Okay, so if you could say, you know what, you make a fantastic point, we see eye to eye. Why don't we move on to this next topic, so it's clear that the conversation has ended and then you're moving on. But you guys have done an excellent job of interacting with each other. Your range of vocabulary is really good, and the ideas that you're putting forward are top notch for a B2 level. So well done. Now things are going to get a bit tricky because the examiner would say, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which two are the most important if you want to stay fit and healthy.
Would you mind if I started?
Go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned before, I think that a balanced diet goes well with exercising at home. What is your opinion about it?
Yes, you twisted my arm because it's convenient to, and yes, I'm totally on the same page. That's tricky now. I don't know.
I think we've just reached the conclusion that the balanced diet and exercising at home is the best what you can do for you to stay fit and healthy.
Yes, this way, this person will stay fit as a fiddle for sure.
All
I'm
right, guys.
wholeheartedly agree.
You took the easy road, which is just to say your points agree with each other, end of conversation. Was there really a negotiation there? Not really. What we can do in this case, obviously the examiner said, I'd like you to choose two ways which are the most important. What we didn't do is we didn't eliminate any options. So a great way to have a negotiation would be to start by saying, well, I definitely wouldn't go for buying expensive equipment because somebody might buy the fanciest running machine and just never use it. And then you've eliminated one option. The next person would say, yeah, you actually make a great point. If I had to choose two, I think I'd go for eating a balanced diet and exercising at home based on the points that we talked about before, because you didn't really give any specific arguments to support your idea or refer to anything that you said before. You just said, yeah, I think it's this too. And then the person said, yeah, I think it's these two. And then you said, great, we agree that it's these two, but we didn't really understand why. So that's just the one thing that was missing. Okay. All right. Let's do one more here. I'm going to ask Collin and Gosia to do the next one. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention actually, which I'm surprised didn't happen before because it's a mistake that I see in every single Speaking Part 3 exam preparation class, which is when you guys were having the discussion on what can people do to stay fit and healthy, I think Ursula, you said, well, I think the most important is eating a balanced diet. You chose one, you made a decision instead of simply answering the question, what can people do? So it's a reminder to avoid saying this is the most important or this is the best thing, because that's what you're going to be doing in the negotiation after. There's no need to decide, just talk about the points that you have around them. Okay? All right, let's go on to the next one, shall we? Here we go. Okay, so the examiner would say to you guys, Collin and Gosia, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. There are many things that people need to consider when they go to a job interview. Here are some things that they think about and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. Now, talk to each other about what people should consider at a job interview.
Collin, would you mind if I start?
Go for it.
There is many things which people should consider at job interview, like, for example, eye contact, clothes, or having a positive attitude. And from my experience, I think that having a positive attitude can have a great impact of your job interview results. What is your opinion, Collin?
I agree with that. Having eye contact and I forgot what the second thing was. Having eye contact is very important in a job interview, but the way you're dressed is also very important in my opinion, because if you come in looking like you're on vacation, that would be very weird, don't you think?
Yes, I agree with you that your appearance, physical appearance, like your clothes, is very important, and also keeping the eye contact, because it shows respect to your interviewer. Do you think that past work experience is also important at the job interview?
I think that's one of the most important topics you have to talk about in an interview. But it could also be interesting for the company to show them that you have good interest in what they do. Don't you think?
Yes, I agree, but I still think that past work experience is more important than knowing the company to which did you send your resume.
All right, thank you. Guys, your time is up. We're going to do the same again. What do you think you did well?
We kept talking.
You kept talking, absolutely.
And
We
use
ask
all the
each
different-
other of the opinion and ask questions. So I think that our interaction was fine.
How about
And we also speak about all the options which were given in this exercise.
do we need to speak about all of the options though?
No.
What happens if we try to speak about all of the options?
We can run out of the time and not give the and not discuss proper just 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. It was clear from the very beginning that you guys tried to talk about lots of things, because you mentioned 3 different points in like the first 10 or 15 seconds. As a result, what happened is you guys didn't go into a lot of detail when talking about the points, and it took some time to really get into a conversation, because it seemed more like you were talking about the words that we have on the piece of paper instead of really trying to communicate ideas about why it's important to have eye contact. You made some really good points. I mean, you talked about the fact that eye contact is important because it shows that you respect the interviewer, which is a fantastic, very specific point. You mentioned, Collin, that wearing vacation clothes to an interview would be weird. Maybe we could have added something else and said, it would have been weird. It shows that you're not really taking the job seriously, just to kind of make the point a bit stronger. You mentioned something about showing that you're impressed with the company, considering the company. So you did make some good points, but it took some time to really get the ball rolling. So just start with one point, give an opinion, and explain it a little bit more. Okay? There's one other thing that I told you guys about a couple minutes ago, which I saw happen now.
The word
Ursula?
important, and they repeated it again and again and again.
Yeah. You said this one is the most important. This one is better than this one. And remember, we can't do that because we're going to do that already in the negotiation. That's not what the examiner is asking you. They're just asking you, what should people consider? So we should say they should consider this because of this reason. They should consider clothes because of this reason. They gave you the points. They just want you to expand on those points a little bit more. Okay, so why don't we do a little bit of brainstorming just so we can think of some more in-depth ideas about what people should consider. Why is eye contact important?
You show the interest.
You're showing interest. And what did you guys mention before already?
Respect.
Yeah, it's a way to respect the interviewer as well. Why are your choice of clothes important?
Because again, it
Because
back
your attire counts.
What was that, Ursula? Your attire?
Yes,
Your attire, clothing counts, but why?
because if you look like if you had slept under a bridge, it won't make the best expression, right?
The best impression. Okay. That's a good point. If you look like you just come back from your holiday, or if you look like you slept under a bridge, it might not leave the best first impression. And it's true that first impressions are really important. Now we're starting to develop some points. That's good. Why should people consider having a positive attitude?
no one likes negative people. So it's again some kind of impression.
Because when you're in a high spirit, that's in a way contagious, and that will have an impact also on your team. And that's by the same token an negative or a low spirit has a bad influence on other people's mood.
Good. We're starting to get deeper now into our opinions, which is really good. Ursula, I'm going to put you on the spot and I'm going to ask you to do this discussion with me in 2 minutes. And I'm going to ask everyone else to be really picky and see if they can find a mistake in our performance or tell us what we did well. Okay? So the examiner would tell us now talk to each other about what people should consider at a job interview.
Do you mind if I start? Issy?
Go ahead.
I think past working experience takes really a backseat comparing with the other points, like eye contact or having a positive attitude. What do you think?
I'm not sure you and I see eye to eye on this one, Ursula. I think when we're in an interview, if we can talk positively about the skills that we developed at our last job and all the things that we've learned, that could leave a really positive effect on the interviewer. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, you make an outstanding point, and you definitely twisted my arm. I really now understand what you mean. And I think really your past work experience matters a lot.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know what you think about eye contact, though.
I think it's it shows respect and interest, but maybe if you don't have contact with other people, it's not that relevant.
You know what? I hadn't thought about it that way. It's true that if you maintain eye contact with the interviewer, it's a way of showing them that you respect them, that you're engaged in the conversation. But I guess some people also struggle with eye contact, so it's a tricky one, really.
That's true. Shall we come to a conclusion?
Shall we come to a conclusion? Are we reaching a conclusion, Ursula? There's no conclusion here. No. Our time is up, I'm afraid. Oh my gosh. What's the number one rule about this part of the exam? Are we reaching a conclusion? Are we going to stop speaking? No,
It's
we
too
just
hot.
It's hot. Yeah, I'm sweating buckets right now. But we just need to continue with our conversation until the examiner says thank you. And you were doing
Ah,
a really good job. Well done, because we didn't reach the negotiation yet. Okay? Michaela, you are now going to do the negotiation with me to answer the question. The examiner would say thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is the most important thing to consider at a job interview.
If I started,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's a tough one because I'm torn between the having a positive attitude and past work experience. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, you've really put me on the spot with this one. I think if I had to choose one, I'd probably go for having a positive attitude because I think if your mindset is positive, then as we talked about before, it's really contagious. It helps you create a really positive work environment, and then everything else after that is going to be easy peasy.
I strongly believe, yeah, you're completely right. I strongly believe that giving a good impression is great, but I'm still sitting on the fence. What do you think about the past work experience?
I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree, Michaela, because my decision is crystal clear. So it seems we've reached a conclusion that you think past work experience is the most important, and I think that having a positive attitude is the most important. All right. I was just saying that because our time was basically running out and we weren't getting anywhere. And Miss Michaela the Rebel decided to say, you know what, actually, I'm not sure I agree with you on this one right at the end, which is fine. It's okay for us to disagree. We just need to make sure we're having it as a polite conversation. Okay? All right, guys, we are reaching the end of our class. We have time, I think, for one more practice each before we wrap things up today. So I'm gonna mix you guys up because I think I kept you in the same pairs today, and we're just gonna keep practicing for the next 10 or so minutes. All right, so I'm going to ask Ursula and Gosia to do the next one now. Okay, let's get my script open. Here we go. All right, so the examiner would say, you know the drill. Now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. Here are some things that people think are important when making new friends, and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. Now, talk to each other about whether these things are important when making new friends.
Ursula, would you mind if I start?
But she's mute.
Oh, you're on mute, Ursula.
Can we start one more time?
You can start again. All right, so now talk to each other about whether these things are important when making new friends.
Ursula, would you mind if I start?
Go ahead, Gosia.
I think that there are many things which are important when you try to make new friends, but one of them is having common interests, because you can share your hobbies with another person and you can spend your valuable time together. What do you think?
I'm totally agree with you, Gosia, because when you're sharing you meet someone new and you share the same interest, it's very easy to break the ice and start a conversation, and after also it helps to forge the relationship.
Do you think that living in the...
Do you mind if we jump to another
Yes, please.
point? What do you think about living in the same area, because I think it would really help that you see each other on a regular basis, comparing when your friend lives on another
Yes.
country.
Yes,
What do
I
you
will
think?
agree with you because I think that living in the same area and having common interests is related. Because if you are neighbors, you can see each other every day and you can share your interests every day, not only on the weekends. And you can also involve in these activities other people, so the group of your friends become bigger.
Right. Thank you. Guys, your time is up. Let's do the negotiation and then we'll have some time for feedback. So the examiner would say, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is the most important thing for a long-term friendship.
Do you mind when I start, Gosia?
No, please go ahead.
Because I think first impression doesn't really matter, because what really matters is what you are building up in your relationship. So that's why I'm wavering between time and having the same interest. What do you think?
Yes, I will agree with you that first impression is not important, but having common interests is definitely is. And I also think that living in the same area is at the
All right.
same level.
Thank you. Okay, everyone seems to disagree with each other today. There's no decision making in our negotiation. Guys, remember, you just have 60 seconds. I know it's a really challenging part of the exam because you need to make a decision with someone else. If you guys really had to have a think about which is the most important for a long-term friendship, which one would you go for? Gosia. Based on your life experience.
It's hard to say because I have two of them, having common interests and living in the same area. But I think having common interest.
But why?
Because it's easier when you share with other people your hobbies and the thing that you are interested in. It's easier to decide what do you want to do and how do you want to spend your free time, for example, or what would you like to do on weekends if you have common interest.
Good. You make a really good point. So you really have your main ideas there. You might say, for example, well, I'm torn between living in the same area and having common interests. But if I had to choose one, without a doubt, it would be having common interests. Because if you guys like doing the same things, then it's so easy to spend lots of time together over the years. There's no question about it. And then Ursula might say, yeah, you actually make a fantastic point. The longest or the oldest friends I have are friends that I started doing yoga with, or friends that I met when I was, I don't know, doing this 20 years ago. And then you guys can say, great, well, we've reached a decision. Nice and easy. So the one recurring mistake I saw in this conversation was just not really getting into detail when you guys were explaining your points. You kind of stayed on the surface level, but there weren't really specific examples of why this is important. Why is living in the same area important? Because it makes it so easy to see your friends because you can just knock on their door and say hi. You can't do that if someone lives far away. Is time important? Absolutely. If you don't have free time, then how can you expect to develop a deep friendship with someone if they can't take time out of their day to spend time with you and bond with you? So just don't forget to develop those answers just a little bit more. But you guys are doing a really good job of interacting, which makes me really happy. All right. Oh my gosh, this is probably the hardest one, and it's the last one that we're going to do today. So, Michaela and Collin, I apologize in advance for the topic that I've given you. The examiner would say to you guys, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 2 minutes. Here are some things that people believe contribute to a high quality education and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task.
Do you mind if I started?
Michaela, I didn't say you could start.
Oh,
You guys are such rebels. The examiner would say, now, because first I said, first you have some time to look at the task. And now the examiner would say, now talk to each other about how these things contribute to the quality of education. Now you can start.
Okay, Colin, would you mind if I started?
Absolutely, go ahead. Oh no, go ahead, sorry.
So in my opinion, high educated teachers are essential for getting really good education, who can pass the information to us and teach us their knowledges. It goes well with technology, or the technology of the school. What do you think about it?
I totally agree with your point because if you have teachers who don't know how to bring the topic to the other people in class, then you just don't have a very informative lesson. But I also think that the facilities in the building are very important, because if you have things like digital whiteboards that could make an interactive class more easier to give. What do you think of that? About that?
Not necessarily. I kind of quite like the old way teaching, to be honest. So um, it's great to have it, but I don't think it's necessary. What do you think about the location?
I think that the location is very important, because if you're close to the airport, for example, and there's a lot of noise, then a lot of students may be distracted. And if you're in a calm environment, like close to a forest or in the middle of a town, uh, in which it may be very quiet, then people are
Thank you.
more.
Guys, that was fantastic. It was so good. I mean, the conversation was really balanced. You both spoke equally, which I love, and you really started going deep into the subtopics that you were talking about. Could you feel like the conversation was getting deeper?
I got
Yes.
a bit confused with facilities, because facilities, is it like a bathroom, canteen, and this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of all of the buildings, services. It covers everything. So it could be toilets, it could be the number of rooms, it could be technology. It's the space, really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, you did a really good job. Now the examiner would say to you, thank you. Now you have about a minute to decide which is the least important for high quality education.
Would you mind if I start?
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm very torn between features and technology. What do you think?
You said, sorry, could you please repeat your question? Did you say technology and
Features and technology.
teachers? Um, it's hard to decide, to be honest, but if I have to pick only one, I would go for technology, because if you don't have teachers to pass or explain to you the information, great. It doesn't matter what technology or what computers do you have.
You make a great point there, and I think I have to agree with what you just said. Because whatever, I don't
So I
know.
think that we just came to a decision that
Yeah,
teachers are really essential to have a good quality of education.
right, that's what we've decided.
Well done. And your time was just up, so you managed to do it in the 60 seconds. I love how, Colin, you were like, you know what? I'm tired, I'm hot, whatever. That whatever at the end. And
Women
it's some
always right.
no, but
I
it's
think
good.
Michaela saved me.
I'm
Yep,
joking.
but you did a good job, Michaela, because this, this does happen. Either people get nervous or they freeze. Anything can happen. Sometimes we just get stuck and we don't know what to say. And you kept the conversation going. And Colin, you still jumped in afterwards. You said, yes, I agree with you. So you didn't let that moment stop you from interacting. And you showed that you could interact with each other until the very end. And you guys did a fantastic job of this last task. So well done. Interaction was on point. When it came to the negotiation, Michaela, you really stopped to think, you know what? I've heard the points that you're saying, but we're going to talk about, I'm going to say technology because we talked about the fact that teachers were very helpful. You guys really listened to each other, and that was fantastic. So I'm very happy with how things are ending today. How do we feel about speaking part 3 compared to the beginning of class?
It's easier than what we did last time.
Oh, then the photo comparison. What makes it easier?
Because you don't have to stress yourself if you speak for 1 minute by yourself, but if you don't know what to say, you can say, oh, what do you think about it? And you can interact with your partner, which gives you a bit to be advanced.
I think it's a lot more easy to talk about some random topic than talk about some picture, because it's easier to lie about something you don't know than lie about something in a picture.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, you have someone else to help you out, as you guys just said. You're not completely alone. So if you're struggling, the other person can help. Well, in theory, you don't know who you're going to have in the exam. It could be someone who's not prepared for the exam, who does not have a B2 level. And then it could, in fact, be very difficult to get the conversation going. I have a question for you guys. It's more than okay for you to say no, but I'm sure you've realized that you guys all found me because of YouTube or Instagram or some reason like that. And I think you did a really good job in your answers today. And I think this could make a really good class for YouTube. Is that something that you would be okay with if I covered your faces, or would you prefer for that not to happen?
Please go ahead.
I don't have to show any faces. Like, it could just be your voices, and the feedback would be a good thing to help other students. But of course, I'll fully respect if you don't want your voice to be in the video either. What do you think?
I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind either.
Okay. Are you okay with me using your faces, or would you rather be blurred?
You could have said something before class, you know?
I wasn't planning
No,
on
I'm
it, but
joking.
Yeah.
all right, guys, you did an excellent job. I think the class went really well in terms of how you were performing, especially towards the end of the class, developing your ideas. Just like we talked about in speaking part 2, the thing that you really need to practice if you want to practice this at home is developing those ideas and getting comfortable talking about different topics in English. No one in this class has a problem with interacting with other people, which is really good, but sometimes we just need to go a little bit deeper. So if you struggle to think of ideas, that's something you can work on at home. Just speak for 2 minutes again, like we did with speaking part 2, about topics that you don't talk about every day, and you should be fine on exam day. But in our class next week, we'll have a chance to go through the whole exam, the whole speaking exam, one more time. Okay, I think that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see each other on Thursday for our next writing class.